Welcome, Ho Lifers, to the Health Over Everything podcast. I am Stephen Z.
And I am SoCal Gula. Today, we're going to be talking the power of thoughts.
Yep.
So thoughts are very powerful, contrary to many believing this. Some thinks it's like some witchcraft or voodoo or some crazy nutcase that thinks that your power of your thoughts can like change things, but they definitely can, and I definitely believe it.
Yeah,
Have you
same here.
have you ever experienced anything crazy like your thoughts helping you out, changing something in your life, Stephen?
I would say more recently, yeah, because I don't know. I felt like I did like a rehaul in my just my mental, I don't want to say mental strength per se, but my perspective. And it wasn't like something, it's been something that I've gradually been kind of working on. So I feel like all the effort and all the work that I've been doing in the past is kind of coming into fruition. It's like it kind of started out for me with the cold plunge, and from there I kind of went to working out and eating better. So it was like this gradual progress, and not to sound cocky, I almost feel like my momentum is like unstoppable right now. I'm like on a
Yeah.
certain path and I have enough momentum where like nothing, I feel like nothing can really knock me off my path. Maybe some sort of crazy life event, yeah, but as of right now, I just feel like all the small obstacles aren't really a thing right now.
It all started with the thoughts. The first thought that you had is like, I got to do something, and then
Exactly.
like, then you did it. Like, but, some might say like, oh, you had an action or something in your life that created like to make you have this thought, like, oh, well, you know, I had a son and I don't want to die like my dad did. So that action made it where like now I have a thought of like, oh, I need to be healthier. But you did have the thought, and the thought comes into things. There's a saying called thoughts are things. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, if I believe it or if I think it, like it could become a thing. And I think that's true because the thing is like, if you're thinking about like, um, I'm gonna get a haircut today. I'm gonna get a haircut today, or like I don't know if the haircuts thing. Like, if I'm gonna get like 20, I'm gonna get my bills paid this month, and
Hmm.
you don't have enough money. You're not working enough hours. Like, I'm gonna get it paid. I'm gonna get it paid. And you just keep thinking it. That thoughts become things, and eventually you find a way to get it done because you keep thinking it. And it's like it's like directed thoughts and stuff, and how powerful the thoughts are. You can't just think it once, like, oh, I'm gonna pay my bills today, and then this week, and then that's it. If you keep thinking about
Hmm.
it, then it's like, okay, my thoughts are to keep thinking about it. So then I'm thinking about like, well, what actions do I need to do to get it? And that's why thoughts
Exactly.
becomes things. So it's very powerful. Just what you're thinking about is usually what you're going to do.
Yeah. I think that's too why it's so easy to get lost in your negative thoughts and kind of that's all you're thinking about. Like if you're not able to pay the rent, but instead of having that positive thought, you're thinking like, oh shit, how am I gonna make it? I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna lose my house, I'm gonna be on the street. If your mind is thinking about all those kinds of thoughts and focused on those kind of thoughts only, like for me, I'm like that's gonna impact you negatively, maybe not even physically, but like mentally. Well, I think, mentally first and then physically from all the stress. Eventually the stress is gonna weigh your body down, maybe not over a month or a year, but over years and years of time of being in
Hmm.
a negative mental state. Like it's gonna take its toll on your body eventually, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a mind body connection. Like you're thinking,
Hmm.
like there's a mind body connection. That totally is. So you're eating bad. Your body will start feeling bad, and then now your mind and your thoughts are thinking like, oh man, I'm feeling bad. Like I'm having heartburn. I'm having like chest pains, or like I can't breathe right. Like what the hell's going on? So now you're thinking about it, and you're thinking
Yeah,
like, oh man, like what's wrong with me? Am I gonna die? Like, and you're like, do I need to go on Google and search what's wrong with me, like these symptoms, and you start seeing other things, and then now you're having anxiety and you're getting worse, and you might raise your blood pressure, and you might actually, have a heart attack or something, or anxiety attack, or freak
exactly.
out, and then over time break down your body. So, there is a mind body connection. That's why, like, I was practicing that when I like a year or so ago when I started feeling bad from my diet. I
Hmm.
was doing like, I still felt bad when you first start changing because you have a lifetime of bad eating. But I was saying to
Yeah.
myself, thinking like, I'm getting better. I would say this to myself, I'm getting better. I'm making better choices. I'm starting to eat better. I am healing. I am healthy. I'm getting healthy. I'm going to be healthy. And I kept saying that every time to myself. And I would even like meditate and just like try to say, like, I am healthy. I am
Yeah.
healthy. I am getting better. I'm doing the right things. My body is healing itself. And then that would like try to help me get through it instead of doing the opposite of being all freaked out.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you do kind of have to brainwash yourself at least a little bit, especially if you don't necessarily have the results you're going after in the beginning. Like
Hmm.
it may be useful to kind of use it as a strategy until you get closer, you know what I mean? Until you start actually
Yeah.
seeing the results because, in the beginning there is no results. So you got to kind of create something that you could attach yourself to. And if it's maybe something that's being used more in the imagination, like so be it, as long as it helps you get to the end goal, like I don't see a problem in it.
Yeah, that's a good point that you put out there. Thoughts are like an imagination. Imagination comes from your thoughts, you know. So you're starting to think about like if you're trying to get a six pack, you're thinking about it, and then in your head you could kind of like visualize it. So the
Yeah,
thought is like I'm
exactly.
gonna get close your eyes right now and be like I'm gonna get a six pack, and you start now visualize yourself with a six pack, and now
Mhm.
visualize what you need to do to like visualize like you walking around in the gym, like girls turning their head looking at you, you know, like because now you have a six pack. So you start thinking those things and it helps out with your imagination. And then you kind of like believe it and it becomes real. And that's another way you could move forward towards these things because your thoughts are so powerful. The imagination is
Yeah.
powerful as well.
Yeah, I've actually started thinking more recently where it's like I think it's more of a positive thing to almost have like a huge level of confidence in yourself. I think it was Andrew Tate I heard saying something like, but by basically he's like, it's not that I don't think depression is real, but by believing in it, you kind of give it power. So he's like, I rather not believe in it, or make a conscious choice to say I don't believe in it, so that it doesn't kind of creep up in my life. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it
Yeah.
was something like I was thinking something along those lines where it's like it's better to have the confidence than to lack it, because if you're someone going into a fight thinking you're going to win, like it's good to be overconfident to a certain degree, you know what I mean? You don't want to be
Yeah.
too cocky and get your ass knocked out, but I think it's better to believe in yourself than kind of go into that fight thinking like, oh man, I don't want to do this, what if I get hurt, what if he's a better fighter, because then I think that's just going to hold you back to your potential. So thinking more positively about yourself, in my mind, is going to benefit you.
Yeah, that's true too. Like we're talking about the power of thoughts. Like if you're thinking and if you're going into a fight, like you're saying, and you automatically in your thoughts are like, I'm gonna lose. This guy's gonna beat me up. Like you're gonna lose. Like you're gonna go in there and you're not gonna do the right things. You're gonna just think about like, how am I gonna get harmed? How am I, how is it gonna hurt? How
Mhm.
bad is it gonna hurt? Like, what's he gonna do to me? Instead of thinking like, oh, I'm gonna hit this guy when he's open or like just jump around while he's trying to swing and get him tired out. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about losing. And that kind of
Mhm.
goes in with like what you're trying to do with health. Like if you're trying to get healthy and you're trying to get your weight down and your metabolic syndrome like cured. If you're going into it thinking that you're lost, like you can't do anything, you're already going to lose. Like you're going to be thinking about like the bad things and get more anxiety and more. So, but if you're thinking like I'm going to win this battle, and then you're just like, well, how are you going to win it? Like, I don't know. I'm going to win it. Like, that's your thought. I'm going to win it. I'm going to win it.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to win it? Well, I'm going to do the right things. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to check my weight every day and start losing weight. I'm going to start eating the right things instead of eating the chocolates or stuff like that. So now
Yeah.
your thoughts all start about, I'm going to win the fight.
Yeah. And in my mind too, it's like when you're especially with lifestyle changes, like, being more healthy or starting a workout regimen, like those things could be challenging. So if mentally you're not on your own side, like the journey is already hard regardless, but if you're
Yeah.
going against yourself in your mind, like you're making it even more harder than it needs to be. Like you need to have that confidence within you. So when it does get hard, you're like, no, I don't care how hard it is. I fucking got this. Like it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna get it. And by having that like kind of unbreakable willpower, like it's gonna help you. In my mind, it's gonna help you get to the goal. And yeah.
And it's like there's a thing called manifestation, like the law of
Mhm.
attraction. Like that's a huge, and like a lot of people think it's corny or spiritual or
Yeah.
something like that. But it could be true because you're manifesting it, and like you're just manifesting it. The law of attraction, like basically, like if you're saying every day, like I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, and then you
Mhm.
go and eat a donut or some fast food, it's like now your body's like, wait, your thoughts and your mind are telling me that you're gonna lose 20 pounds, but you're eating this, so it's like it's like a circuit breaker. Like this ain't working. Like something's off. Like why, so then you're
Yeah.
like, so your mind, you doesn't get that win. But if you get that little win and you don't eat that donut in the morning, or if you don't eat that fast food at lunch, boom, now you're like, oh, your mind's like, you said you're going to lose 20 pounds and you made that win right there. So you are
Mhm.
doing what's right. And then you keep saying, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then your body, everything starts adjusting to it. It's like, oh, well, now your mind's like, oh, you did win. You didn't eat there. You are going to do it. And it starts building, and now it starts getting attracting it more. So the law of attraction and manifesting doesn't just work by just out of nowhere. Like you got to put some
Yeah.
action in it, but you got to totally believe it. Like that's what they say. Like you got to truly believe it, write it down or whatever, and just really believe it and visualize it and imagine it, and just say like, imagine yourself not going to the fast food restaurant and totally believe it. I am not doing this in your head and your thoughts. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to get that 20 pounds lost. And then eventually it starts attracting that. And then there you go. Before you know it, you lost 20 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a good point by that too. By it's not just kind of thinking about it and believing in yourself and just sitting there and doing nothing about it. Like there has to be actions that are pushing you towards those particular goals you're going after, physical or money, health, whatever
Mhm.
your goal is. You have to have some sort of action behind it, because if
Yeah.
not, like you're just gonna be exactly where you're at, wishing and hoping things were different, but without the action, like it's probably not gonna happen. It's probably near impossible.
Yeah. You want to make it real. Like thoughts are powerful, but they are just thoughts until you make them real. So like a lot of people
Mhm.
just say like you want to journal or write them down. Like that's a good thing. Like even if you have to write it down 100 times on a piece of paper. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Just write it down. I am like, you don't want to say I'm not going to be fat. I'm not going to eat fast food because there's like negative kind of connotations.
Yeah.
But like I am going to lose 20 pounds. I am like, if you're, let's say 200 pounds, but like I am 180 pounds. I am 180 pounds. Well, you're 220,
Yeah,
but just
exactly.
like just write it down over and over. Then it's real. It's on paper. So now it's like it came in your thoughts now into the paper. So it's a real. And then when you make those small actions and they start building on each other, then it becomes more real and more real. So the thoughts become things, that the thoughts is where it starts. That's how powerful it is. It doesn't just
Yeah.
like you're just going to lose the 20 pounds. It all starts and sparks somewhere, and that's in your mind and in your thoughts. But you have to like make it real, like by putting it on paper, like by going out there and doing it, making
Yeah,
those small
exactly.
choices.
Yeah, something you said reminded me of a quote I saw, or maybe it was a video I was listening to recently where the guy was basically saying it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's, habits that are good and taking you to a positive direction, or habits that are bad taking you into like a negative direction. Either way, it's building your habits and it's building like your routine. So whatever you're doing, if it's good or
Mhm.
bad, it's gonna start to become a habit eventually. So like make sure that you're making your habits good. Start your day off good by waking up and working out or going for a walk, going for a run, doing something that's gonna benefit you positively that you may not necessarily want to do. I think that's part of their journey too, is kind of learning how to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a thing called neuroplasticity, and that's what you're saying, like the habits. So neuroplasticity
Yes.
is like circuit breakers, circuits inside of your brain. Like, okay, your habits and your neuroplasticity and your mind and your thoughts are all wired a certain way, and it's wired to be
Mhm.
unhealthy. What it's wired to do the habits that you're currently doing, the easy thing. Like, well, now that so when you start doing something like, oh, I'm gonna go on a run, or I'm gonna go to the gym, or I'm gonna eat well, it breaks that habit when you first start. But you have the thought, and it's in your brain, and so like,
Mhm.
whoa, I'm gonna do this, but now your body's like, wait, this isn't what I normally do. So then your
It's
brain
weird.
wants it, so you do it maybe once or twice, and then your brain automatically goes back to like, okay, well, I need, like, you'll just get that thought in your head like, oh well, McDonald's or something, and like
Mhm.
that's what I usually go, or Carl's Jr. Boom. So like that same time the next day you work out that day, the very next day, now your brain's neuroplasticity and its habit is like, oh well, this is what I just normally do. But then you have to have that thought again and like overpower it. Like, no, this is what we're doing. And it's like we're gonna lose weight. We're not going to go to the McDonald's or the Carl's Jr. or the fast food. And then it's now your brain's like, what? Like, we're not, like, we usually do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, we're not doing that today. Like that's what you start thinking, and you start telling yourself, like, yeah, tell yourself this. And
Mhm.
then you do it for 2 days, and boom, now then after a while, your body and your neuroplasticity and your brains, your circuit breaker, your circuits, they start changing. And then they're just like, well, we're eating a salad today. Like, instead of being like, we're going to McDonald's today. It's like, and then it's like, then you're just doing it on normal. It's like, well, I'm eating a
Yeah.
salad today. It's just a habit. And then like if you go to McDonald's, then your body goes the opposite way. Like, wait, why are we eating McDonald's? You know? So your neuroplasticity, like it changes its circuit over time. And you have to know that when you're doing these changes in your life, because it's like it will get easier because your brain changes.
Yeah. I think it was Michael Pollan. I heard him saying he described it almost like a mountain covered with snow. And he's like, after you go down snowboarding or skiing, you create these grooves. And after you've gone down a certain path or, a certain thought, a certain amount of times, that groove gets deep. So
Yeah.
when you're trying to change those habits, it's hard to get out of the groove initially to start another path. But that's kind of what you have to do. You have to kind of keep trying to get yourself out of that groove. And, the more you've had your thought, the deeper the groove's going to be. So I think that's why it's so hard to break some of these habits because they're so ingrained and it's just part of your nature at some point. You're
Yeah.
subconsciously you thinking or consciously you're not thinking about it. It's all subconscious. So the first part or the hard part in my opinion is acknowledging them because it's hard to change those aspects of yourself that you're unaware of. But once it gets on your radar, you could be like, all right, well, I'm doing this something that I don't like. Let's put some effort into changing it. And it's going to be a process. It might take some time, trial and error, and probably just beating around the bush until you fucking eventually get it. But it is possible to change. You just have to want it
Mhm.
and, I think the first steps is being able to observe it.
Yeah, being aware is like huge. Like that is a great point, like that you put there. Because let's say when I started, I wanted to stop drinking. Like I would think it like, hey, I'm gonna stop. I want to stop drinking. Obviously, I'm hungover. I don't feel like shit. I don't fucking like how I'm feeling, where my life's going. I make bad decisions while I'm drunk. So I wanted to
Yeah.
stop drinking. So that was a thought in my head. I want to stop drinking. But then it's like you got to be aware of like, wait, why? What is my brain doing that I'm not thinking about? It's doing
Hmm.
things out of habit that I'm not even thinking about. So you started being aware, like what is triggering? That's like a trigger.
Yeah.
What is
What are your triggers?
triggering me to want to drink? Like I'll wake
Yeah.
up in the morning. I didn't crave 8 in the morning. I'm not craving a drink,
Yeah.
but at a certain time, like boom, that I started noticing. Like I started. So when am I craving a drink? And then that's
Hmm.
when it's like, okay, when the sun goes down and I'm at work, when the sun's about to go to down, it's like, oh, I want a beer now. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, I started getting a craving. So then I noticed, like, okay, I got to get past this time. So when the sun went down, I went from home from work. As long as I just went home and got in my room in my house, and I was good. I didn't have the trigger anymore. It was over. So like
Hmm.
then I was aware of that. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm aware of this now. This is when I want my crave. This is when I have my craving. This is when I want a beer. So I have to
Hmm.
make it past this zone. So now I'm telling myself, I'm not going to drink at this time. Then you get that thought in your head. I'm not going to drink at this time. I'm not going to drink at this time. Going to make it past. All I got to do is make it home. I'm aware of that. All I got to do is make it home and I'll be good. And I make it home and boom, I was fine. Then I go to sleep and do the next day. And eventually that
Yeah.
pattern got broken. And it's the same thing with like going to fast food, or if you're eating fast food, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, like you
Exactly.
drive by a McDonald's or your favorite restaurant and you just see it, or someone just says it. Like someone will say, like, hey, Baker's drive through. And I'll be like, oh man, now I want to go get Baker's drive through. Yeah. I start getting all those memories of how good it tasted and the fun I
Yeah.
had
Your
with
mouth's all
friends
watery.
eating food there, and all the
Yeah.
past memories come up. And then there you go. Now I want to go eat there. So now that's a trigger. You got to be aware of those sugars and then tell yourself through over and over again through the power of thought to how to break that cycle and habit.
Yeah. And I think that's at least one of the hard parts about it is that I think part of the process is you have to kind of get very familiar with yourself. Like you kind of can't sugarcoat shit. You got to be able to really analyze yourself
Yeah.
and kind of see things for what they are. And it's like, for you, and I went through the same thing with alcohol where I was good on certain days, but I knew it was like Friday after work time.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, oh shit, I want to drink because this is when
Gotta
I
get
usually
fucked up.
drink. So like clockwork every Friday, I would have the urge
Yep.
and it took and it wouldn't like I've done that same thing where like if I just make it home, I'm gonna be fine. But I've
Yeah.
had days too where like I go home and then like, no, fuck that, I'm going to the gas station. And and then I would
Yeah.
slip up and but that's just part of the journey. And I think that's what makes it hard too. It's like it's kind of a solo. I guess you could have support, but it's ultimately you that has to kind of go through this certain level of pain and suffering to kind of push your feelings to the side and say, like, I know it's going to make you feel good, or you think it's going to make you feel good to keep drinking, but we're not going to do it. And that ability to kind of refrain from that is it's kind
Yeah.
of a painful process, in my opinion. It's hard to do. It's like you're struggling with this aspect of your mind. Two parts of your mind are fighting over, like, I guess, over your mind. Who the fuck's it going?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the
Yep.
alcoholic Steven? Is he winning, or is this other guy that's trying to come through going to win? And it all boils down to you, which, I think makes it even more hard because you can't really. I don't think anybody could really help you. They could give you advice and shit, but you're going to be the one that has to walk through the fire.
Yeah, getting to know yourself is like the amazing advice right there. You got to get to know yourself, like, like just study yourself, be aware of your habits, because most people just go through along the day and don't know why. Like, why am I fat? Like, why am I unhealthy? Why am I getting drunk? Like, why can't I stop drinking? And they don't
Yeah,
actually take the
I've asked
time to
myself
get
that
to,
a lot.
yeah, and they don't get the time to get to know themselves. And like, okay, like, is it because I'm hanging out with these three guys? And I was just listening to the philosopher Nietzsche. I sent you a video of
Mhm.
him. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's how you pronounce it, Nietzsche or but he's a philosopher and he says that, being alone and being lonely is two different things. If you're
Mhm.
alone, like if you're lonely, that means you are by yourself and there's nobody around you. But just being alone is actually powerful in a sense that you could get to know yourself and you could like
Yeah.
and get know what your triggers are. And so it's like, yeah, a lot of people don't want to be alone. They want to go out with their three friends. Oh, I'm gonna go out with my three friends or two friends or my coworkers this on Friday night. Well, then you're just like, well, I can't stop drinking. Well, don't go be alone at your house for a couple weeks and just realize like, okay, what is making they're all out having fun? Why? How do I feel? Like
Mhm.
when I'm alone, do I drink still? Is it
Yeah.
their fault that I'm drinking? Like, do I not drink? Or maybe it's just because I'm around them. Maybe I need to hang out with people that don't drink, or just get to know yourself and see like what your triggers are, and try to be aware of all decisions that you make and your thoughts that you're telling yourself. Most people just think thoughts and they don't even know where they come from. They just come from the
Yeah.
ether, or like you just chilling and all of a sudden you have a thought. Like, why do I have this thought? But
Mhm.
try to think about why you're having thoughts. Like I know me and you always have these thoughts like, why did I think this? Or like, what am I thinking about? Or we'll see other people and like, what do you think they're thinking?
Yeah.
Like so it's like if you just see someone just looking around, you're just like, what is it? What are they thinking in their head? Like are they thinking like just randomly? Or are they actually thinking about why they're thinking? Like that's the thing. Like why am I thinking this, and why am I thinking at all? Like and once you start, and then you can start getting control and knowing yourself of why you're thinking certain thoughts in certain ways, and why you're
Mhm.
thinking like, and then thinking about like, why am I doing this? Why am I drinking? Why am I eating bad? And then then the only way to cure it is and fix it is by being aware and knowing yourself. That's a huge tip there.
Yeah. It's kind of tedious work too. I can understand why it's not amusing. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of glamour in it.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's necessary. And I was going to add too, it doesn't even necessarily have to be like an addiction. You could be wanting to change like an aspect of yourself. Like, I don't like that I feel like I'm angry all the time.
Hmm.
So it's like the same process. You got to go inwards and be like, all right, this person said something, but why did that make me mad? Was it because it was directed at me? Was it how it was said? But I think it's more important than what was said. It's like, how did you perceive it? That's what really matters. It doesn't, like, your perception is everything.
Yeah.
One person could say something to me and it sets me off. Someone says that same thing to a different person, they don't give a shit. And it's all in how you see things. And I think anger is a big one that people kind of look over, but that's an aspect over yourself that I think you can change too. Anxiety, I don't know. Maybe I've never personally dealt with that, but in my mind, I think it's a similar thing. Like, you may be anxious about certain things in your life.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why you haven't overcame it yet is because you haven't done enough work on it yet. We all have our issues. Some people have anxiety, some people have anger issues. The list goes on and on and on. But those things are going to remain there until you work on them. And as long as you kind of accept the fact that, like, this is my personality and this is just who I am, well, to me, that means you're never going to change
Yeah.
because
You gave up.
you already think it's set in stone that you're
Yep.
set like this and you cannot change. So, for you can't change. But there could be
Yeah.
another person that believes they can change and they're like, well, I am anxious right now, but what can I do to make myself feel more safe? Or what can I do to kind of lighten the mood and take steps and work on it?
Yeah.
That's all it is, really.
Yeah. That's true. Yep. And also another thing too is like meditation and mindfulness, is this kind of goes with knowing yourself. But like if you have anxiety, like some people think too much. Anxiety, I think, is just like thinking too much. You're thinking about so many things at
Yeah.
once. You're
You're
thinking
either
about like,
thinking about the future or you're thinking about the past, shit that
yeah,
you have no
too
control
much. So
over.
like, try to like meditate and like have a lack of thoughts kind of too, or just like, try to just go into the void, lay down, put some like
Hmm.
meditation music, go on YouTube or get an app, put some like meditation music on, lay down, put maybe even go buy a mask like over for your eyes and just
Hmm.
lay down and have nobody like maybe like when nobody's home. And some people might say like, oh, I always have somebody home or something. Well, do it in your car, take your car down the street, go somewhere where nobody's at and just lay down and just try to be in the void for 5, 10 minutes. Breathe. Like there's even guided meditations where they
Yeah.
so like you might be thinking about something, but if you have a guided voice on there, it'll start telling you like breathe, think, like relax your jawline,
Yeah.
relax your face muscles. And now you're
Then you
thinking,
realize,
your thoughts are
oh
thinking about
shit, I
that. Your
am
thoughts aren't
human.
thinking about like, oh, my kids, my work, or anything like
Yeah.
that. You start thinking about the face muscles. You start thinking about like, oh, like sink into your body, into your
Hmm.
chair, like, so now you're hearing that and you're breathing, and that's what you're thinking about for 5 to 10 minutes. And then maybe if you calm down a little bit, then you can start thinking about like, oh, like just different things in your life, like how you can change it. But meditation is kind of like a lack of thinking, but it's good to help with stress and anxiety.
Yeah. The funny thing about meditation is too, it's like, there different types of meditation. There's a meditation that I used to do where you're just kind of try to focus on your breathing like as much as you can, like feel it how it comes in, feel how it comes out, listen to the
Yeah.
sound that it's making. It's like total focus around the breath. But
Breath work.
eventually you get to a point where you're just daydreaming again. And like all the
Yeah.
goal is for the meditation is like once you start to daydream, like no, bring it back to the breathing, focus on the breathing. And you'll start to realize like how like subtle it is that your mind just gradually starts to get carried away and you have to bring it back so many times.
Yeah.
I think the practice of doing that and bringing it back, you start to notice when you wander quicker. It's like you
Yeah.
don't have a 15-minute, daydream. It's like you're able to catch it within, a few minutes or a few seconds even. But it takes practice, just like with anything else. But it's kind of interesting in the beginning.
Yeah. And then also thoughts too. Like another thing about thoughts is like your sleep. Like we all want good sleep for good health.
Mhm.
Um, like a lot of people, like they'll be so wound up from work and or like from the kids or whatever, and then when they lay down, they'll just literally like have putting the kids to bed, thinking about work, like just arguing maybe with the spouse over stupid bullshit, and then they just go lay down and they can't think, they can't go to sleep. And I've been that before too. Like I sleep pretty good, but I don't really have any stress. I don't know kids, no wife, no. So I'm just chilling, right? So
Yeah.
and I don't really stress at work too much. 'Cause I'm the boss or whatever. So I just go in my bed and there's nothing really to think about. And I just boom, peacefully go to sleep and I have a great sleep. But like there has been times where somebody might text me something that makes me mad or something, or I might be worried about one of my friends, like, okay, well, they're not home, or like they haven't told me they're home safe or something like that. So then
Mhm.
I'm thinking my thoughts are thinking about this and I literally can't go to sleep. And I'm like thinking
Yeah.
about like, oh, are they okay? Like, or I start worrying about them. And I'm like, I'll even try to tell myself, don't worry about them. They're fine. Like they're good. They always make it home. And like, and then that thought will creep up again, and then my sleep. So it's like that's just the power of thoughts. Like, and that
Yeah.
just goes in with everything you're doing throughout the day. Like your thoughts can affect you. Now I can't sleep good. There's been times where somebody made me mad by giving me a text or something, saying something, stupid bullshit. We all had that before. And then there you go. And I'm like sleeping, like you're sleeping, but in a light sleep, and you're kind of like thinking about it. It's kind of like dreaming about it a little bit. And then you're kind
Yeah.
of like waking up and going back to sleep, and it affects your sleep. Now you're not getting 8 hours full of sleep, you're getting 4 hours of like sleep and like a couple more hours of light sleep. So
Yeah. Tossing and turning.
but that's the power of thoughts, like, so it's like if that's what it can do to you, like throughout the
Mhm.
day at any time of the day, and it affects your health, and especially your mental health and your sleep and everything else like that as well.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't think it was you that told me the story. I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was a guy. He was telling me that he woke up in the middle of the night and he checks the time and he's pissed off because he's up so early and because he was so mad he couldn't go back to sleep. I was like, dude, if you would have just
That's
not
nice.
cared, you probably just would have went back to sleep. But since you got your fucking self worked up, you probably got your blood pressure boiling because you're so upset, and now you're awake and you can't sleep, and now you're even more mad. I'm like, if you just didn't care in the first place, you probably just would have went back to sleeping like a baby.
Yeah. No, I've done that before. Like You know, like I'll go to sleep, like I'm gonna sleep at 7:30, like that's a super early. But I'm like, I'm going to sleep 7 o'clock, 7:30, because I gotta wake up at 4:30 in the morning. So I want to get a
Mhm.
good night's sleep, and I'm gonna get a great sleep. So I'm gonna get at 7. And then somebody will, like a helicopter will fly by and wake me up, or somebody will come home and make some noise. And like at 8:30, an hour later, and I'll wake up and I'll be just pissed. I'm like, I wanted to fucking sleep all night and I got woken up, and now I'm pissed, and now I can't go back to sleep for nine until 9:30, because it takes me I'm just thinking like, oh, all I
Yeah,
wanted to do was sleep,
got
and
worked
I couldn't
up.
even sleep. And so I'm like telling myself this, all pissed off. And now there we go. Now we can't go to sleep. And like now I'm like 9:30, I lose an hour of sleep. And the
Yeah.
thing that I kind of like cured that is I buy these earplugs. I know a lot of people don't like earplugs, but I got these earplugs right here, and I just put
All
those in.
right.
So now like people can't wake me up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now it's like I'm
Aaron, the house is on fire.
yeah, I'm sure as hell not going to sleep now, like being woken up.
Oh
And that
shit.
kind of cured that. But yeah, like the power of thoughts, like, like, why can't I just calm down? Like, you just got
Yeah.
to tell yourself, like, but it's another thing. You just got to tell yourself, like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep at 7:30. They might wake me up. Somebody might wake me up. But if they do, don't get mad about it. Tell yourself before you go to sleep,
Yeah.
get mad about it. Just wake up, maybe put some earplugs on or something. Like, it's pretty quiet in my house all the time, but it's just like, back in the day, you used to live in a house, and I wouldn't even know what to do if you're just somebody comes home and just being noisy all night. Like,
You were
just,
probably the one coming home being noisy, if anything.
yeah, I might
Back
have
in
to
the
just
day, at
get.
least.
I think you've done it before too, where you get in your car. I'm just gonna go sleep in my car away from you guys.
Oh, fuck you guys. You guys are too fucking crazy. It's funny though, that you made a shit, I forgot what I was gonna say exactly. It was something about what you were just talking about. It'll come back to me.
Okay, yeah. Well, what other practical tips do you have for thought, like for people?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, by you being mad that you're woken up. See, to me, I was seeing like that is an opportunity for you to work on an aspect of yourself that maybe, kind of maybe not holding you back in life, but an area that you just want to
Maybe.
change. Like, I don't want to get so mad when I wake up in the middle of the night. And maybe, in that moment, it isn't the time to work on it, but the next morning when you wake up, think about that situation and like, all right, if I'm trying to go to sleep again and the roommate comes home and she's loud as fuck or he's loud as fuck, what can I do to kind of not get so worked up about it?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it starts. You start to look for answers. If you're not seeking, those answers are probably not going to come. But the fact that you're trying to change and you're looking for these other ways to figure it out, I think inevitably you're going to find something that works, even if it's half-assed, or at least it's
Yeah.
going to be a little bit. But you got to be searching for those kind of little pockets in your life that you can improve on, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's too, like, that's a good point, because when you think of thoughts, like, you're also telling yourself a story. Like, everyone lives
Mhm.
their own life by a story. So if you just like think about it, like, okay, I would always tell people, like, one thing that pisses me off the most is when I get woken up. Like, so that's a story I tell myself. Like,
Yeah.
is that changeable? Like, is that just me, like who I am, like you were saying earlier? Or could I start telling myself, like, I used to get mad, but I don't do it anymore. Like,
Yeah.
or if somebody wakes me up and now I just figure out a way of just dealing with it, like put on some earplugs or go in the car, leave the house or something, and then get over it. Like, oh, I'm not the person. Like, you could change your identity. It's all the story you're
Yeah.
telling yourself. Like, I'm not a person that gets mad, like, anymore. Like, if somebody does wake me up, I'll just turn on the TV and until they go to sleep or something, or I'll just do something else. Like, so you kind of like tell yourself a different story, and that's like from the thoughts in your head. But you gotta, like, and it'll change like your whole outlook on life by just telling yourself shit, like that, changing your life story.
Yeah, exactly. See, I feel like too, that is very much like it's a perspective thing. If you kind of hold the
Yeah.
belief that, change is possible, then I think for you it is. But if you have the other perspective where, you can't change, it's just who you are and there's nothing you could do about it, then that will be your reality as well. Like it's just on how you see it. It's not necessarily what you see, but how you
And
see it
it's,
that
yeah, it's
matters.
like they say too, like the person that says he can and the person that says he can't, they're both right. And the
Yeah,
same thing, like if you're
exactly.
just like the person that says I'm gonna change my life and get healthy is can do it, and then the person that says this is just the way I am and this is the way I'll always will be, that's the way they'll always be.
Hmm. Exactly. I wanted to ask you a question. Kind of, I guess it goes into like kind of
Ask me
mental
a question, Steven.
mental thinking. Is that Do you kind of feel like at times you're your own worst enemy? Like,
Oh
because
yeah,
you can have all these influences in your day, but I feel like it's
I think
ourselves
yeah.
that are our biggest
Oh,
challenge.
definitely. I'm my best friend and my worst enemy both. Like there's nobody that does more good for me than me, and there's
Yeah,
nobody that does more bad stuff for me than me. Like
that's
nobody
a
could
good
like
point.
somebody might fuck me up somehow, and that's gonna be the last time they fuck me up because I ain't gonna be around them anymore. But I have to be around myself all the time for my whole life, and I keep doing stupid shit to myself all the time. No matter
Yeah.
how hard I try, like why do I do this? Why did I go eat that donut this morning or something? But no one, like my worst enemy isn't shoving a donut down my mouth. I am. Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So
Yeah.
yeah, I do believe that. Yeah, totally.
At least it's a 50-50 with you because I feel like you could just be you're your own worst enemy and you don't have any good aspects of yourself that you could kind of give praise to. So at least you
Yeah,
have that other part like, all
it's
the
the
good shit
yin
I
and
do
yang.
is my fault, but all the bad shit I do is also my fault too. So
Yeah, I think it's the yin and yang, the light and the darkness. Like both sides, like you were saying earlier, bad Steve, drunk Steven, and not drunk Steven. There's always that
Mhm.
pull in life, and
Yeah.
maybe it's spiritual, maybe that's just how life is. But I think everyone has it. You got the angel on one side and on your shoulder, and the devil on the other side of your shoulder. The yin and
Hmm.
yang. This is like stories throughout everyone heard, like throughout life. There's two voices in your head telling you to do it and to don't do it, and I think we all have that. It's like who do you let win more, and what side, like you're saying, there's somebody that may be totally negative. Well, they're just letting the devil on their shoulder win all the time. They're just letting the yang win, the dark side of the yin and yang win all the time. And they're
Yeah.
99% of that. So do you want to be 50-50? Do you want to be more on the light? And like and you're we're it's this the we all have that, but also the story of growth and personal development and getting better, what we're trying to do, we're trying to get more on the angel side, on
We're not
the,
trying. We
the
are
light
doing
side. Yeah, we are doing it.
it.
That's why we're telling ourselves that. Yeah, the power of thoughts and the power of words, like you're saying. But yeah,
Yeah.
we are going to do that. So you are moving towards, that's the whole goal, is to move like,
Mhm.
okay, we're 50-50, yin and yang, you got both sides, but we're trying to be on the more positive side. And then you start getting better. Now you're 55-45, then you're 60-40, 60 good, 40 bad. And then you're just trying to get better and better and better. And sometimes you might go backwards a little bit. You might go back to 55, and then, but the next week you'll go to 70.
Mhm.
So that the whole goal is to keep it up, and like to strive for getting better and progress. And that's what life's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, for the viewers listening, I always kind of interrupt Aaron when he says trying because I always tell him like we're not trying. You're either gonna do it or you're
Why do
not
I
gonna do
fucking
it.
still say it?
But don't try because trying is in my mind already seems like a failed attempt. Like, oh, I'm gonna try to not smoke. Well, you're probably gonna fail because you're already giving yourself a way out in my mind. So I correct myself when I say it. I eliminate that word from my vocabulary as much as I can.
Yeah,
Same thing
I
with like
still
I
say
should.
it.
I don't like saying I should because that implies that I'm not gonna do it as well. Like I
Yeah,
should probably start eating better, but I'm
shoulda,
not,
woulda,
am I?
coulda.
Like
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like, and that's the thing too. Like thoughts and words, they're both powerful. Words are
Mhm.
very powerful because it comes out of your mouth and you hear it, and then it goes into your brain. But yeah, definitely. You can't say those words, and I still say them sometimes. And why? I don't know. And I'm still growing.
It's like Dave said, it's you're casting spells. That's why it's called spelling. Words are spellings, and you're casting
Mm.
these spells.
And that's why it's good to like
Some
just
truth
like
to that.
like when you're growing in personal development and you're trying to think, but to get better, to have someone that's to connect with somebody that's also growing as well, because they'll check your ass like Steven just checked me right now.
I was gonna ask you something you were saying earlier got me thinking. You've heard that story about the good wolf and the bad wolf, right? It's like the two are always battling.
Recite it. I don't know.
I don't know the whole word for word, but
Oh,
basically,
in
I think I
general.
heard it from a movie. I probably read it too.
I don't know. I
It's
never heard it.
basically a story about two wolves. One of them is all good, probably has all these good characteristics.
Yeah.
And then there's the bad wolf, and he lists all these characteristics of the bad wolf too, and he's like, well, in your mind, in your life, which wolf wins? And it's whichever wolf you feed the most. If you feed the good
Mm.
one, then that one is the one that grows and gets stronger. But if you feed the bad one, then that's the one that grows stronger as well. So it's the same thing with your negative thinking, negative perspectives. Like whichever one you're feeding is going to be the side of you that grows more.
That's a dope story. I like that.
Yeah, you always talk about
Stories.
stories. I'm like, people remember stories.
It's oh, this is probably the only thing I'm gonna remember of this whole podcast because it's a goddamn story. You know,
I'll send it to
we
you
need
so you
more
can get like the
stories.
real
Yeah.
version.
But yeah, that's true. So yeah, so we made this podcast today because we're trying to think like a lot of people are trying to get healthy. I'm
Mhm.
still trying to get healthier. Steven trying to get more veins in his abs. We're all trying to get healthier. But
You can always be
we
better.
all are gonna get healthier. We're
There
not
it is.
trying. But how are we gonna do this? We're gonna do it through the power of thoughts. There's many different ways we could do it. What you put in your mouth, but what you're thinking about is so powerful. What you're thinking about on a daily. If you're thinking
Mhm.
about, like I do slip in my health sometimes and I'll start eating bad. And I realize when I am doing that, like when I start eating bad, and getting off my health is when I'm thinking more about my money. Like that's what I'm like, I'm gonna try to get my money up. I'm trying to
Mhm.
so I'm sitting there thinking about work. I need to work as many hours as I can today. I need to go and work, like I need to figure out I'm writing my bills. I come home and write my bills and like see how much money I have and what am I gonna buy and what's my future assets I'm gonna buy. And that's all I'm thinking about. So now I'm not thinking about going to the gym, what kind of meal prepping I'm gonna do, what kind of
Mhm.
so like when I have other thoughts because you only have so much time in a day and so many thoughts in your head. You can only think about so many things.
Yeah.
So when I start thinking about other things, and I know a lot of people are thinking about like, okay, they might be scared of how they're going to pay bills at the end of the month, and how a lot of, they might be thinking like, how am I going to get my kids to school, and how am I going to get them to get better grades or whatever. And you're thinking about all these different things, and that's when I realized that I slack on my own health. So when
Yeah.
work slows down, like right now, my work is super busy and I started eating bad a little bit. But like
Mhm.
when work slows down, then I'm like, okay, I'm not at work all day. So I'm just sitting around not working. And so now I'm thinking of like, okay, well, what am I thinking about? Like, I'm not at work, not thinking about hustling, trying to get as much done. So I start thinking about like, what am I going to go eat? Like, how am I going to eat better
Yeah.
today? And then like, that's what I realized. So it's, what you think about is super powerful. And that's why we made this episode. And I know it's hard and there's a lot of things going on in life. There's a lot of things I think about trying to take your headspace, but you got to figure out a way to work around all that, meditate, but like just be aware and know yourself. And I think that's the biggest tips that came from this podcast is be aware of your triggers and what you're thinking about on a daily and what you're thinking about and then try to fix it and try to always think about getting that healthy body, getting that healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And for me too, I don't think there's really any aspects of ourselves that we can't change with hard work and effort. It's not going to
Yeah,
be something, especially those habits that are ingrained after, or, in us after years and years and years. Those are going to take more work. But in my mind, as long as you're willing to put in the work and not really think about like how long is it going to take, it doesn't matter how long it takes. All that matters is that I'm going to beat it in the end, like, and just go to fucking work, go to war at it.
I
um
am.
but that's all it takes is you just showing up day after day. Maybe not every day is a win, but the fact that you're still showing up means eventually, you're gonna win in my mind. And you know Aaron's done it through his ability to stop drinking. He's the one that kind of motivated me to kind of stop drinking as well. He was a piece of the puzzle. And it was a complex thing.
Yeah,
uh
not easy.
but yeah, if there's aspects of yourself that you want to change, first step to me is find out what those areas are, acknowledge it, write it down if you have to, but you have to be able to see it in my mind before you can change it. So once you can see it, start of a plan of attack. Like if it's, I overeat, make conscious choices on how to reduce your eating. Or, if you want to start exercising, I think that sucks. A lot of people don't like to kind of go through that kind of, I don't know if you want to call it pain or that struggle, but that could be hard too. And you just have to, you know, be okay with being uncomfortable. Like, working out doesn't necessarily feel good. I think it feels good, especially after. It might not suck when your body's going through the fatigue and you're
Yeah,
tired
after's
and you're
always good.
huffing
Yeah.
and you're puffing. Like you
You get
might
them
not like
endorphins
that.
too.
Yeah. You may not like all that shit, but it's part of the game. It's part of what you need to do. So just kind of suck it up, and that's part of what it is. And you have to be willing to go through those things in order to get what you want. Like. It's not always gonna necessarily be happy and pleasant and all that, and I don't think life is always supposed to be all sunshine and rainbows. It's like
Oh,
you grow in the darkness, you develop in the darkness. Like that's the darkness is there to help you grow and level up in life. So don't see it as the bad guy, see it as a challenge and a way to get to a further level in your life.
beautiful. So you said, yeah. So all right, with that, this is gonna be, it was quite a bit. What is that? Almost 50 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll end this podcast, but just be aware of your thoughts and think positively, and you're gonna win.
Yep.
Say it over and over again. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna lose that 20 pounds. I'm gonna get healthy, and just use these tips and tricks that we had on here, and kind of like the discussion that we made and the story that we said. Whatever
Yep.
one you feed those positive thoughts in the right directions. So, feed that wolf.
Yep, you got this. Fucking keep coming at it. Keep going to war with it, and eventually you're gonna win.
All right. Well, this is Help Over Everything podcast. Please like and subscribe and share it. We're on, Apple, anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify. Just share it out to a friend. We have amazing episodes already. We're on episode 37. We had some amazing guests on in the last
Yep.
4 episodes. So watch those, check those out. And we'll be here every Thursday in the morning for you. So Thursday mornings, it drops every Thursday morning. So be aware, or just kind of like subscribe too, so you could just see it on your profile. But check us out, share it with a friend, so we could get this more people helped out and getting that in the positive direction of health over everything. Keep living that
Yep.
whole life.
Yeah, whole life.
Peace out, everyone.
Steven out.